Have you ever felt that no matter how much you give, you're never quite enough? There's a quiet pain that settles in the heart when love is withheld. It doesn't scream, it withdraws. It doesn't wound the body, it starves the soul. Rejection is one of the earliest emotional wounds we encounter, and often it comes not from enemies, but from those we long to be seen by the most. A parent too busy to notice your tears. A partner who shuts the door just when you open your heart. A friend who disappears the moment you reveal your truth. In those moments, something within you whispers, "You're not lovable as you are." And slowly, like a shadow growing at dusk, you begin to reject yourself before anyone else can. You wear masks, strive for perfection, stay quiet when your soul wants to speak, anything to avoid feeling that unbearable sting again. But here is the truth. The wound of rejection does not heal through the approval of others. It heals when you stop abandoning yourself to be accepted. When you begin to turn toward your own pain with presence, not judgment. In Jungian psychology, rejection is a seed that buries itself in the unconscious, manifesting as a false self, the persona. You show the world what you think it wants to see and hide the parts that have been deemed unworthy. But the soul knows. It remembers what was denied, and it aches to be reclaimed. Picture this, a child holding out a drawing with trembling hands, eyes filled with hope. But instead of praise, they receive indifference. So the child tucks the drawing away, and with it, a piece of their spirit. How many times have you done the same? Self-love is the gentle hand that reaches back for that hidden drawing. It says, "I see you, I cherish you. You are not too much and never not enough." It is not a loud or showy love. It is a quiet, persistent vow to no longer abandon yourself in the face of silence, to give yourself the approval you once begged from the world. And so I ask you, what parts of yourself have you rejected in order to belong? Whose love did you chase at the cost of your own truth? It's time to return, not to them, but to you. Have you ever felt like the ones you needed the most always leave? There's a hollow echo that abandonment leaves behind. It's not just about someone walking away, it's about what they take with them. Safety, connection, a sense of worth. Abandonment teaches us early on that love is temporary, that presence is conditional, that attachment comes with a silent expiration date, and so we grow up learning how to brace for loss, even while craving closeness. As children, abandonment might look like a parent who was physically present but emotionally absent, or one who disappeared entirely, leaving behind only questions and silence. In adulthood, it shows up in patterns of anxious attachment, holding on too tightly, afraid that any moment of distance means we are being left again. In Jungian terms, abandonment plants the seed of an unconscious belief. I am not worthy of staying for. This belief burrows deep, influencing who we love, how we relate, and even how we treat ourselves. The child inside still waits at the door, hoping someone will return. But here's the truth that self-love whispers gently. The one who truly needs to return is you. When you begin to show up for your own needs consistently, without abandoning yourself in times of fear, exhaustion, or failure, that is when the healing begins. Imagine standing in a vast field, alone, calling out for someone, anyone, to come back. Your voice cracks. No one comes. And then, in the stillness, you hear footsteps. But they don't come from the horizon. They come from within. It's you walking toward yourself, arms open. Self-love is the vow to never leave yourself again. It's the daily act of presence, even when it hurts, especially then. Because every time you choose to listen to your pain instead of running, every time you stay when the fear tells you to shut down, you rewrite the story. So I ask you, who was the first to leave you? And how have you been leaving yourself ever since? It's not abandonment that defines you, it's the return. Have you ever felt ashamed just for being who you are? Not for something you did, but simply for existing in a way that someone else found too much, or not enough. Humiliation leaves a deep, silent scar. It happens in those moments when our dignity is stripped away in front of others, or worse, in front of ourselves. Maybe you were laughed at for expressing emotion, teased for your body, silenced when you tried to speak your truth. Over time, humiliation teaches us a dangerous lesson. To be safe, I must be small. You start to monitor your every move. You walk on emotional eggshells. You shrink your presence, fearing that if you're fully seen, you'll be ridiculed or rejected again. And this fear becomes a cage. In Jungian language, humiliation awakens the shadow, those rejected parts of ourselves that carry both our pain and our power. The parts we were taught to hide because they made someone else uncomfortable. But the shadow doesn't disappear. It lingers. It waits. And if left unacknowledged, it can turn inward as self-hatred or outward as silent rage. Picture this. A child sings with joy, only to be told to quiet down. No one wants to hear that. So the child stops singing. But the song? It keeps playing inside, trapped, echoing through the years as a longing never voiced. Humiliation is not just a wound, it's a silencer. But self-love is the voice that restores the song. It says, "You were never too much. You were always enough." It dares you to unlearn the shame and reclaim your dignity, not from those who took it, but from the part of you that believed they were right. True healing begins the moment you stop apologizing for your existence. When you realize that your softness is not weakness, your voice is not a burden, and your body is not something to be hidden. So I ask you, what part of you have you buried in shame? And what would happen if you let it breathe again? You were not born to be silent. You were born to be whole. Have you ever placed your heart in someone's hands and watched them drop it? Betrayal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers your name through clenched teeth. Sometimes it wears the face of someone you trusted most, someone who made promises then walked away, a partner who was unfaithful, a friend who turned cold, a parent who broke their word. There's a particular kind of pain that comes when trust is shattered. It's disorienting, like suddenly realizing the ground beneath you isn't solid, and once you fall, it's hard to believe in stability again. Betrayal teaches you that closeness is dangerous, that vulnerability is a risk not worth taking. You begin to doubt not just others, but your own judgment. How did I not see it coming, you ask? What's wrong with me that they left? In Jungian terms, betrayal triggers a confrontation with the shadow of dependency, the part of us that longs to merge, to bond, to lean into another's presence, and the terror of being hurt again. And so we build walls instead of bridges. We keep people at arm's length. We call it strength, but it's actually fear in disguise. Imagine this. You hand someone a delicate glass sculpture you've spent your life building, your trust, your heart, your truth, and in one moment, they let it fall, shattered, pieces everywhere. But here's the quiet miracle. Self-love bends down, gathers the fragments, and begins to rebuild. Not because the other person deserves forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Self-love doesn't mean you forget the betrayal. It means you stop bleeding from it. It means you trust yourself enough to open again, but wiser now. More rooted in your own worth. Less willing to abandon yourself for someone who can't hold what is sacred. So I ask you, who broke your trust? And how have you been keeping your heart locked away ever since? Trust doesn't begin with others. It begins with the courage to trust yourself again. Have you ever felt like no one ever truly understood you? Like your truth was overlooked, misjudged, or minimized, over and over again? The wound of injustice runs deeper than mere disagreement. It's the ache of not being seen accurately, of having your integrity questioned, of being blamed for things that weren't yours to carry, while the real pain inside you was dismissed, ignored, or misunderstood. In childhood, this might look like being labeled too sensitive, too emotional, or too difficult when you were simply responding to pain. As adults, this wound evolves into a deep distrust in fairness, a constant feeling that life, or people, are not safe places to be yourself. Jung taught us that injustice distorts the relationship between the persona and the true self. The mask becomes not a choice, but a shield, crafted out of necessity. You wear what keeps you safe, not what makes you feel alive. You stop speaking your truth because it's easier to be accepted than to be real. But inside, a silent rage builds. It is the cry of the soul that knows it has been misjudged. That longs not for perfection, but for truth, to be seen clearly and still loved. Visualize this. You're standing behind a glass wall. People walk by, look at you, assume they know your story, and move on. But they never hear your voice, never ask, never pause. And still, Cass, you remain. Self-love is the decision to break that glass from the inside, to stop waiting for justice from the outside world and begin giving yourself the recognition you have always deserved. It is looking into the mirror and saying, I see you, I believe you, your truth matters. No more minimizing your pain, no more shrinking to keep the peace. So I ask you, when was the first time your truth was ignored? And what would it mean to finally validate yourself? You are not invisible. You are simply waiting for someone to see clearly. Let that someone be you. Have you ever been told you're too sensitive? Or worse, that your feelings were wrong? Emotional invalidation is not always loud. Sometimes it comes dressed in well-meaning words. You're overreacting. It's not a big deal. You're being dramatic. But the impact is lasting. It teaches you, quietly and repeatedly, that your inner world is not to be trusted, that what you feel is not worthy of space. Over time, this wound becomes a silencer of the soul. You begin to doubt your own instincts. You start to filter your emotions, show only what's acceptable, and hide what feels too much. You numb, you shrink, you bury the parts of you that long for expression just to stay safe in a world that doesn't know how to hold you. But here's the truth. Every emotion is a messenger. Jung said that the unconscious speaks in images, symbols, and emotion. When your feelings are dismissed, you are being disconnected from your deepest language of truth. This is why self-love isn't just about being kind to yourself. It's about listening. It's about letting the full spectrum of your emotions rise, like waves on the ocean, without rushing to silence them. Imagine this: a child crying, and instead of being held, they are told to toughen up. That child grows into an adult who swallows grief with a smile, who pushes through anxiety in silence, who carries rage with clenched teeth and no words. But self-love arrives like a gentle hand on the shoulder. It says, feel it, all of it. You are allowed to feel what you feel. There is no healing without expression. There is no wholeness without allowing. You cannot love yourself while silencing your pain. So I ask you, whose voice told you your feelings didn't matter? And what would it mean to reclaim your emotional truth? Your feelings are not the problem. Denying them is. Let them rise. Let them speak. Let them guide you home. Have you ever looked in the mirrors and felt like a stranger? Not because of how you look, but because something deeper feels lost, like you've drifted so far from who you truly are, you can't remember the way back. This is the quietest wound and the most devastating. It doesn't come from a single moment, but from a lifetime of small betrayals of yourself. Each time you said yes when your soul screamed no, each time you stayed silent when your truth was begging to be spoken, each time you twisted yourself into who they needed and forgot who you were. And now, there's a numbness. Not a lack of emotion, but a lack of connection. In Jungian psychology, this is the wound of the lost self, when the persona, the mask you wear to survive, has completely eclipsed the inner truth. You've been so busy being what the world wanted that the voice within has grown silent, but it is not gone. It is only waiting. Picture this. Deep within a forest, there's a cabin. Inside it, untouched for years, is a journal, your journal, filled with the words you stopped writing, covered in dust, but still here, still yours. Self-love is the journey back to that cabin. It's not a sudden awakening. It's a slow, sacred return. You begin by listening to your body, to your longings, to the small whispers of your soul that say, "This is who I am." You stop performing and start being. You stop striving and start feeling. You begin to tell the truth even when it trembles. You begin to set boundaries, not as walls, but as doorways to your real self. Because the greatest love isn't found in someone else seeing you. It's in you finally seeing you. So I ask you, when did you begin to disappear? And what would it feel like to come home to yourself? You are not broken. You are buried. And now, it's time to rise. So tell me, how long have you been carrying these wounds in silence? How many times have you looked for healing in the eyes of another, only to be left even more empty? These 7 wounds, rejection, abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, injustice, emotional invalidation, and disconnection, are not signs that you are broken. They are invitations, each one a door, each one a mirror, each one a sacred call back home. You don't need to fix yourself, you need to find yourself. And the one who finds you is the one who chooses every day to stay present when you want to escape, to stay soft when the world tells you to harden, to stay real even when the mask feels safer. Self-love is not a destination. It is the quiet revolution of coming home to who you were before the world told you who to be. As Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And now I invite you to begin, not tomorrow, not when you're healed, now. Which of these wounds still lives inside you? Which one spoke the loudest as you listened? If this video touched something in your soul, let us know in the comments below. Your story matters, and sharing it could be the first step to reclaiming your voice. If you'd like to support the continuation of this work and help us reach others who are still in the dark, consider sending a super thanks. Every small gesture keeps this message alive. And if you're ready to keep walking this path of inner transformation, subscribe to the channel and watch the next video now appearing on your screen. Your healing is not a dream, it's a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone.